I'm majority of it anyway, like 90 something percent Bitcoin. Whatever 10, 15% I have left into shitcoin, I was hoping to see an altcoin season to get rid of it. We will see still a huge amount of people, they'll gamble with these tokens, especially with some horrible ideas like XRP and all those terrible coins. But we've seen it also in the Trump administration. They have a stack, right, with Cardano, XRP, Solana. I don't think we're going to get rid of them. Seyr with strategy is another major issue, I think, because what happens when he steps down? What happens when, I don't know, in 10 years from now, someone else takes the company and goes, this Bitcoin thing, I'm done, man, let's sell it. We don't know. The question I have in my head is, why am I selling for? If you are plugged in like me, if you have nothing else but Bitcoin, well, you have no other option. But if you have a job, if you have a normal job who pays you in fiat, and you have everything around you as quote normal, but you don't sell your Bitcoin, why would you sell it for? Whoever comes into the crypto machine and they stick around, they'll be Maxis in a couple of cycles. Inevitable. We must spend Bitcoin. That's something maybe that no one is talking about, because everyone is like, oh, you don't sell your Bitcoin. No, you do. You spend them, which is very controversial, but I think it depends on the situation you are in. I have a strong position on the matter because I only have Bitcoin. I have nothing else. So am I supposed to not selling it, not spending it? What am I supposed to be living with? Like air? So, of course, when Seyr said things like, oh, you don't sell your Bitcoin, well, it depends. If Bitcoin is everything you have to sell Bitcoin. Plus, who wants to buy an asset nobody wants to buy or sell? It's useless, right? It has to circulate.
Are you now completely Bitcoin only, like 100% Bitcoin and dropped everything else?
No, not yet, because we didn't have an altcoin season, right? So, and I don't think maybe we won't even have it because the Bitcoin dominance is going higher. So the plan was to wait until the ratio between Bitcoin and altcoins would have been, I'm majority of it anyway, like 90 something percent Bitcoin. But whatever 10, 15% I have left into shitcoin, I was hoping to see an altcoin season to get rid of it. But at least Ethereum is dying. If you chart Ethereum versus Bitcoin, oh my God, it's very depressing. Like, if you have Ethereum, of course, if you hold Ethereum, it's really depressing. So I was hoping for, I don't know, like a better maybe move. But I still believe that at some point when Bitcoin is going to go, because I think we have another leg up, at least 150 or 180, then at that point over there, people are going to take profit into altcoins because it happens every single time. And if history proves to be, correct, then we will see another speculation happening. If not, well, then the cycles have changed forever, right? It's possible.
I see kind of strategy and Bitcoin associated products and leveraged products, because strategy is basically for me a leveraged position on Bitcoin. And you can even take a leverage on strategy, so MicroStrategy. This is kind of the altcoin season. Because most of the people say like, oh, I like Bitcoin, but I'm like with 10% or 5% of my portfolio, I'm also gambling in altcoins to get a little bit more Bitcoin. Yeah, I want to outperform Bitcoin. Now you can do that with an actual business, with like an actual CEO. Like there's a well-established business where you don't have to rely on a project that might have been around for like half a year or something like that, where maybe tomorrow it's completely gone. So it feels like strategy is now a safer bet to outperform Bitcoin and might steal the thunder for altcoin season.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. I still think we have the crypto people, though. They are not going to buy an ETF. For example, you can also buy MSTY, which is an interesting play, which is speculation on options. So you can be a degenerate even if you are in traditional financial system. But I still think the crypto people are going to degenerate into altcoins, right? They're going to buy Solana, buy Ethereum, buy Cardano, whatever, because maybe this time will be different, but I strongly disagree. I think we will see still a huge amount of people, they'll gamble with these tokens, especially with some like horrible ideas like XRP and all those terrible coins. But we've seen it also in the Trump administration. They have a stack, right, with Cardano, XRP, Solana. I don't think we're going to get rid of them. Also with the meme coin has gone bananas. I think at some point it was like 20,000 tokens a day. Crazy stuff, right? So I don't think we will be able to clean completely the thing. There's going to be people gambling in altcoins, I think. Maybe they have more options these days. They have more meme coins. There is more plays. I think we'll see more ETFs coming up. ETF for XRP, ETF for, we already have one for Ethereum, which is going terribly, by the way. But I think that's going to help the crypto gamblers in Wall Street to take some positions. But like I said, I'm still expecting altcoins to rise at some point. The dominance from Bitcoin is taking over, but it only happens in the cycles, right? Bitcoin goes up at some point, and then it goes down versus Bitcoin, versus altcoins, even though you have a small window in which some of those, whatever projects you want to name them, shitcoins, whatever you want to call them, they will briefly outperform Bitcoin, maybe for a month, maybe for 3 weeks. It's a gamble to find them. It's impossible to find them. But there is on data, there is even a website called itsaltcoinseason.com or something that shows you on the 90 days how many altcoins are outperform Bitcoin. And there is a few. I think there is 5 at the moment. But it's just a gamble, right? So I think we will see altcoin season. When? That's the $1 million question. I don't know. That's why Bitcoin is the play, right? Bitcoin is a safe play. Always.
Isn't that, I saw the chart, but I'm currently confused with it. Maybe you can help me a little bit. Don't do that big with Google a lot. But I've seen since, I think the switch from proof of work of proof of stake in Ethereum was somewhere around 2022, right?
I'm not entirely sure when that happened, but when that happened, it triggered definitely a bunch of suspicious / reaction in investors, because that was a 360 going completely on the other way, right? So proof of stake, it's something I don't necessarily agree with, and also it's far away from decentralization. It's more towards centralization, and it there are some projects like Solana, for example, or XRP. They are faster because they're centralized, right? So it depends on what you need to do. But it feels like there's been a shift in policies. There's been more competition for Ethereum. I mean, 2017, when Ethereum launched, there was nothing besides a few projects, right? Nowadays, you have so many tokens planning to do what Ethereum wants to do. Plus, Ethereum wants to do way too many things. Not an expert in the matter. I do have a small amount, like I told you, in my portfolio, but it's insignificant, right? Like, it's my casino. If it goes to nothing, I don't care. Bitcoin is where I store my wealth. But
I wasn't aware that Ethereum is kind of crash. I mean, now maybe we should do it the other way around to make it.
If you chart Bitcoin, if you chart Bitcoin versus Ethereum or Ethereum versus Bitcoin, you would see there's just like a downfall. It's the lowest since I think 2018. It's really depressing. It's really bad. I mean, to be fair, everything versus Bitcoin is depressing. XRP, Cardano, but Ethereum in particular. I mean, not many people would have imagined, unless you are a Maxi, right? And by the way, shocker, most of the Maxi have started buying altcoins, right? Because nowadays it's easy to jump in the market in 2020, 2021, 2022. So, everything is a shitcoin. Yeah, but in 2017 it was different, man. Like, people were buying altcoins because you didn't know. Like, it was a very different space. Now, of course, if you jump in and you read the books, there is much more education. There is your podcast, many other content creators, they focus only on Bitcoin. It's much easier to be a Maxi. And by the way, I believe that's my opinion. I mean, at least that's my experience. You become a Maxi because you buy shit. Then you realize that it doesn't work well in your portfolio. So you decide to stay on the good stuff, right? So it's a path. And I think... Yeah.
Sorry, I just wanted. I actually had Ethereum till I think the beginning of 2022. So I think probably like 2 years before I even started the podcast, I went all in Bitcoin. And this was right around the time where the proof of stake change happened. And ever since that happened, Bitcoin is just going up in terms of Ethereum, since they switched to proof of stake, because then you're like, oh, okay, now what is it now? we cannot trust it at all.
Yeah, and then you have things like Solana. They're saying, "Oh, Solana decentralized, dude. You need KYC to run a node, so it's not decentralized." There is a lot of misinformation out there, and there is not many nodes.
You have to be KYC to be a Solana node.
100%, as well as XRP. If you want to, depending on the node you want to run, but if you want to run the good node per se, they have to vet it. So at the end of the day, it's super centralized. Then the XRP ledger, on the other hand, is technically decentralized, but there are a lot of things out there, right? So we have to be careful when we say, oh, this is decentralized, this is centralized. I mean, the only decentralized asset is Bitcoin. Everything else is a shitcoin. Like, this is common knowledge, right? Then you can go and bury yourself into some technicalities, but if you want to run a node for Bitcoin, you don't need anything. You just need to have internet and some CPU, right? Whether if you want to run something else, well, depending on what it is, it's a different story. I'm not a technician, but I've spoken to a bunch of people and they said, look, when it comes to XRP and Solana, that's why they are quote faster, because they can run their network in a different way. And I think there is a use case out there for those things. Not that I support them in many ways, but if you think about fiat, for example, fiat money, or even like centralized finance, like your bank account, for example, they'll find a use case for it. Like, think about the Trump USD1. They launch a stable coin on BNB, right? Of course, they saw how much money Tether is bringing home. They have 100 people and they make trillions of dollars a year. So of course they want to have their stable coin. So there's going to be a use case, which sadly is not going to be any good for us. But I like to see the glass half full. So I believe it's going to help propagate the Bitcoin message, right? Because if you centralize money even more, and by the way, shocker, when people are saying, oh, CBDCs have been banned, well, USDT is a CBDC to a degree, right? It's smart money. You can control them. USDC is terrible. So they are already there. And now Trump is building his own. And as much as I appreciate everything he's doing for crypto, they are making the life for crypto people easier, and also for Bitcoiners, because for me, Bitcoin is not crypto. Still, they have an agenda and they are politicians. So let's not forget, they always lie. So I don't care about politics much. I just buy Bitcoin. I stack sats. That's my religion. But and I'm happy for everything they're doing in favor of Bitcoin, of course. But Bitcoin doesn't care. In 10 years from now, Kamala Harris, Trump, who cares? 10 years, Bitcoin will forget, right? Just Bitcoin does what Bitcoin do. And then everything else moves accordingly.
And it's a good point, because it's like, okay, CBDC, what it does mean, central bank digital currency. Yeah, the euro is digital already, like for 90% of the time. It's digital. Cash is not a lot in circulation, and it's a central bank currency. So where's the difference? Yeah, they have maybe more control over it. They have maybe more tight control over it, but it's already a central bank digital currency that we are already using. It might get worse. It probably get worse anyways, no matter how they are calling it. And the same, I look at all the stable coins. I even look at all the altcoins like that. I think the only not CBDC is Bitcoin. That's the only thing that is not controlled by any central party and is digital. Like, the only thing that's digital that is not controlled by anyone else. So they are all CBDCs, just not Bitcoin.
Exactly. And then you have a grade. Maybe there is lesser of the evil per se, like Tether. They are nice guys. They are Bitcoiners. I get it. But still, there is a CEO. There is a company. They can put pressure. I don't know if you remember. I think it was in winter last year. Russia and China wanted to do transaction. We call it the petrodollar because they use dollar to buy petrol. And they've done transaction in USDT and they've been blocked. So you tell me if it's not a CBDC, like you can revert transaction. You can block transaction. So, if someone goes to Tether and say, hey, I want you to block that thing, they have to bend the knee, right? Whether with Bitcoin, where do you go? Nobody technically owns anything. I mean, okay, there is the argument of the nodes and so forth, but nobody owns it. There is no CEO, there is no company. So you can't just, whether XRP, for example, there is two co-founder, you can go and you can find them. You can point two guns, right? Or you can make an interesting, like, look at Ton. The CEO was put in jail and then he's been freed. God knows what he agreed to do. I don't know, but I'm sure they found an agreement, right? And I'm not judging. I'll be probably in the same shoe. If they catch me, put me in jail and they threaten to whatever do to me, I'll say, whatever, okay, let's talk about it like anybody else. So whether with Bitcoin, there is no one you can corner. That's why it's the only one. And some people think, by the way, that's a weakness. I found it hilarious, but because they think it's going to come out, this Satoshi guy at some point and dump 1 million Bitcoin to us, which is hilarious if you ask me.
What do you think? Because I personally don't think that it's even a possibility that he comes back and dumps it. Like, no matter, I just don't think we will ever know who Satoshi Nakamoto really is. But let's make that experiment. Let's say Satoshi Nakamoto actually comes out and actually proves that he can sign the Bitcoin and the private key, and he can actually prove that he holds those keys. And he says weird stuff about Bitcoin. He tries to dump it and all those things. What do you think will happen? Is that a worst case situation for short and medium term?
That's a good question. I don't know. First of all, I don't think it's one person. I think it's a group of individuals, because for whatever that shenanigans they put together, it probably required. The only analogy that shows how old I am, it reminds me of the A-Team. You know, the TV series of the 80s, where you had the guy with a cigar, Hannibal. You have the pilot. You have. I think there is a bunch of people. It's a group, maybe small, and some of them have died. They're not with us. They died for sure. But I think it would be a terrible move, because one, the person who's going to come forward is going to put himself or herself in danger. Because, I mean, imagine, hey, I'm Satoshi Nakamoto. I'm the guy or the woman who created the most valuable network on Earth. So that would be a stupid move. Second, I don't think they need the money. I mean, I'm sure they mined a ton of Bitcoin. So the 1 million Bitcoin in the network is, I think it's a bait. I think it's been designed to, it's like, hey, it's over there. Go and catch it if you can. Go and crack it. Which, by the way, at some point with quantum computers, maybe that could be in danger. I think that can be cracked, if I'm not mistaken. Don't quote me here because I'm not a technician, but I've spoken to some people that said, hey, that might be in danger. But it's 1 million, right? There's 21, arguably less, because some have been lost forever. So I wouldn't worry much about it. If anything, I would worry more about BlackRock. They are buying a stupid amount every day. Like, I don't know if you've seen on the news, I was reading an article this morning. In the past week, BlackRock alone, or the ETF, well, basically BlackRock mainly, because they are the one who buy the most. So the whole ETF bought 6 times the amount has been mined in the network. So at some point, the halving is going to kick in. And I think that could create an issue. And as much as I'm behind the ETF, I think it's a product that helped us to get to where we are now, not just money-wise, but also awareness. It could create some problems, right? Because it's not an in-kind ETF. So if I do buy the ETF today or tomorrow and I want to sell it, well, they don't have to give me the Bitcoin back. They just give me fiat and they keep the Bitcoin. Saylor with strategy is another major issue, I think, because what happens when he steps down? What happens when, I don't know, in 10 years from now, someone else takes the company and goes, this Bitcoin thing, I'm done, man, let's sell it. We don't know, right? So it's always, I mean, as much as I love Saylor, I'm behind what everything is doing. We have seen Jack Mulder now coming up and say 21 is doing the same thing. We don't have to, and by the way, arguably, it doesn't even have custody. So that's another, Coinbase has the Bitcoin. I'm sure you've seen a bunch of memes saying, hey, we have Saylor Bitcoin. I don't think it's as simple as that. But all I'm trying to say is if you walk down the path of the purist, you'll have to have your coin into your own storage. But that wouldn't have taken Bitcoin where it is today. So I think it's a good mix of everything. So the best way that I like to see it is like, I don't judge, I don't care. Bitcoin is out, right? And people do whatever they want with it, even on the ordinal inscriptions. I don't care. I'm for the free market. If people want to do stuff and there is a market for it, who am I to stop it? At the end of the day, we are all interpreting what Bitcoin or Satoshi wanted because he left 9 pages into a PDF. So it's not much. There's a lot of space for interpretation. In fact, we've seen a bunch of forks, right? So it's an interesting conversation, but I don't think I would worry much. There might be some who would panic sell because nowadays people sell for everything. Trump loses or something, they sell. Trump wins, they sell. Something happens, they sell. On the other hand, if a double spending would come in, well, that would be a big issue, right? Because that means they can revert transactions. So that means the network is not secure. So that will worry me way more than Satoshi come up and say, hey, I'm Satoshi, which it's very unlikely. Like a meteor destroying our planet is probably most likely than Satoshi saying, hey, I'm back, bros. That's how I see it.
It's very true. You mentioned strategy and BlackRock buying, and I think BlackRock you mentioned 6 times the amount that was getting mined. it's super interesting for me now to see that there are institutions and I feel like they don't really care about the price. They just want to accumulate Bitcoin. And if it's Bitcoin at 70K or 100K or 150K, maybe even 200K, they don't really care. They just try to accumulate more because they get the hard asset aspect and they get that fiat is nothing, not worth anything. So with strategy, with 21 Capital, with potentially America, with BlackRock, with 1,000 other players that we could name, the smaller and bigger ones. You also mentioned in the beginning that you kind of see another leg up in the Bitcoin cycle. Do you think something like a massive supply shock, something like a Samson Mao, I think is famous for saying there's like a Omega or God candle, however he calls it, coming? Do you think that is kind of where we are going whenever this will happen?
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, last time I checked with Matt Hogan, the CIO for Bitwise, he said that 70% of the 70% of the people that are buying ETFs is retail. So still, I think there is when people are saying, oh, retail is not in, no, it is in, it's just into a different vehicle, right? So of course, if you are a degenerate gambler, you're not buying Bitcoin, you're buying whatever meme coin or maybe some altcoins because you're thinking you're smart and you're going to get hurt. That's why if you will stick around in a cycle or two, you're going to be a maxi because that's inevitable. But I think we are up for an interesting time because yes, the supply shock is going to come. The halving usually takes effect a little bit after, so it's not immediate. Like we won't feel it the day that happens. Actually, in fact, the day that halving happens, nothing happens, right? It takes some time for the supply to get in place. And with those companies, we've seen MetaPlanet, Strategy, Jack Moller, and many other companies, Bukele, many other people accumulating. I think there's going to be a point where now OTCs are going quite hot, so you can acquire Bitcoin off the counter, we say, which means it's not going to affect the price because you're buying it privately. But I think those are running short. I was checking a metric on the exchanges. I think Coinbase is the lowest in a while, so it's going to have to impact. And I think some of the companies have started to change the mindset and buying for the long term. But I think those are still a minority. I think those people like Seyr and maybe you and me or your viewers, your watchers, it's not the majority. The majority of the people, they want to speculate. They want to buy, and when they double, they want to sell because they don't understand Bitcoin. In fact, I do believe we are still early in that sense, right? Because if you think about market cap, I mean, 2 trillion is nothing. So honestly, it's nothing. So it's just people look at the price. Oh my God, 100,000, I missed the train. Well, you haven't missed anything. You haven't even started. So I agree. I think it's difficult to put a price, but I think I have in mind some sort of maybe a little bit short to 100,000, 180, maybe before the end of the year. Some people are saying the super cycle is going to come in. We will have no more 4-year cycle. I don't know. It's hard to say. For now, at least, the data shows that we are still on track. Maybe if things are changing, it could. Nothing stays the same forever, I guess. Even though I would argue there are cycles for everything in life, you have elections, and that's probably why we are into the 4-year cycle. But the supply shock, it will come at some point because whenever we're going to go in certain price points, it could be 120, it could be 150, it will generate FOMO. And I think now that we have the ETF, it won't be just retail FOMO, it will be institutional FOMO. You will have companies thinking, hey, wait. What if we just do 1%? And that's all we need, right? We don't need many other sailors. We just need people, they are playing more conservative and say, hey, you know what? I have some money on the balance. It's maybe 1%. If it goes to nothing, who cares? So I think that's going to be when the second gear is going to be put in. People are calling for $1 million this cycle. I don't think so. I think we will see, you and me, in our lives, $1 million Bitcoin, but not in this cycle. And hey, I have no crystal ball. I'm just speculating. I could be completely wrong here. And yet everything I have is in Bitcoin because I believe in Bitcoin, right? But not because I want to speculate. I don't care if tomorrow we go up to 120. I do the math every 20 years. So, but it's not everyone, right? Majority of the people have a short-term kind of mentality, a path of least resistance, as Zuby says. So I kind of feel it, and I understand. And those are people they'll learn their lessons, right? They'll buy Bitcoin at 10,000, sell at 20,000, just to watch it go into 100,000 a few years later. That seems to be a pattern there.
I don't know if it's a controversial take, but I believe that we already are in a super cycle, and everyone that says there's a 4-year cycle is probably too focused and zoomed in on the price movements. If you look at 2009 till now, what is it? 16 years, 17 years? Like it's not a long time. This is the super cycle. Bitcoin is in a super cycle since 2010. And it is volatile. There might be a 4-year cycle, but I don't care about who buys an asset for 4 years. I always look at what's the long-term vision for 10, 20, 30 years. What's the decade-long vision? How will Bitcoin look if I'm dead and my son has a great-great-grandson? Like how does Bitcoin look in 200 years? I know people always say, "Oh, but I will be dead by then." Oh, I want to retire in the next 5 years. Yeah, like, okay, then you have a different time zone, but you have no clue what happens with Bitcoin in 2, 3, 4, 5 years. Like we can guess, maybe it will be at 500,000, maybe at like 10 million. Like who cares? Like nobody knows. I know it will be way bigger than anything else on Earth combined in 50 years. But like, who cares about that? Like, that's why I'm always saying, like, we are already in a in a super cycle.
Yeah, that's a super good point. I guess it depends on the definition. In my mind, when I say super cycle, I mean those 4-year cycles in which we have a bull run and a bear market, right? Which could be very well changed. Like now we have different players. Even just with the ETF alone, they will keep buying consistently every week, day, month. So that could change. And I don't think there is an asset who has kept the volatility since the day one. So the more the asset will get propagated and well known, the less will be volatile. Look at gold. Gold is barely moving. Like 2% is a huge move. Why? Because it's been around for hundreds of years, and people are that they treat it with a different mindset. So I think we'll see a diminishing in either way. So we won't see those stupid rally, but I don't think we'll see an 80% correction either, right? So I agree. So in that sense, I think the 4 years could be challenged. Having said that, I do believe we will see another leg up and we will see another correction, because there is going to be people, they will play the short end. I'm with you. I invest, which means I have a 10 years plus mindset, but not everyone has the same mindset. Some people wanted a short-term play. Maybe they'll double their money and they want to get out. Or maybe someone who's gone in at 108, they want to, oh my God, please go back to 100 so that I can exit. We've seen it before. The cycle before we touch 69 or 70, depending on the exchange. And as soon as we hit 69, some people took profit because they wanted to get rid of their Bitcoins, right? I mean, if you ask me, it's because they don't understand it or they haven't studied enough. But hey, not everyone has the same preferences. There is people, they want gold, they want real estate. There is a lot of people I know in Dubai, they've been selling a lot at 100,000, and those people have been around for quite a bit. And hey, who am I to judge if they went in at $100 and the asset has gone to, I don't know, 100,000? If they want to sell it, please be my guest. At the end of the day, their money, their choice. So they decided what to do with it. The question I have in my head is, why am I selling for, right? I mean, there is an interesting topic which we can go into it if you want, which is why I think you should sell your Bitcoin, but that's a separate conversation. If you are plugged in like me, if you have nothing else but Bitcoin, well, you have no other option. But if you have a job, if you have a normal job who pays you in fiat, dollars, euros, pounds, whatever, pesos, whatever you accumulate, and you have everything around you as, quote, normal, but you don't sell your Bitcoin, of course not. Why would you sell it for? To have money on the bank account, or to buy a property which is not yours, or to do what? But on the other hand, if you live in the Bitcoin standard and Bitcoin is everything you have, well, you have no other option, right? And then the second thing is, well, when do you sell then? Because if you only sell when you need, it's not financially responsible, I think, because imagine if you were sold at 15,000 as opposed to selling today at 94,000. So you might want to be aware of these movements, right? So then it becomes a rabbit hole, then you become a trader. No, I don't want to trade. I just want to be smart with my asset. That's an interesting topic. And sometimes when I speak to people, there is 3 type of persona I have, usually. One, which is like no, I don't care. I don't care about the price. When I need money to do something, I sell. Well, money is Bitcoin. When I need fiat to pay rent, for example, I sell. I don't care. If I sell and Bitcoin is at 20K, alas, doesn't matter. If I sell a Bitcoin at 90K, I don't care. Then you have another type, which is like they try to top the bottom at the top, which is impossible. No one can. And those are the trader type. And then you have someone like me, somewhere in between, where I am trying to be strategic, even though I don't try to time anything. But I do know that now is $94,000. So I have to be aware. I have to take a portion of my portfolio and say, hey, with this amount, I have to be strategic for the next 4 years, right? Or next 2 years. Or I have to plan my finances. Because if I don't, I could take a severe hit financially because I'm going to have to sell when I have to, not when I want to. And that comes with any other, I guess, if you have money in your bank account, right? You have to be some sort of a financial aware of your lifestyle. You'll be surprised how many people, they don't even know how much their life costs. So how much does it cost you to stay alive today? Oh, I don't know. Well, you should, I think, because otherwise, how can you be financially free if you don't have an idea of your expenses, of your income, right? How much is rent? How much did you pay? I'm not saying to go full Excel, crazy serial killer, tracking everything, but you should have an idea, I think, right? To make sure you can afford your lifestyle, to make sure you can go on holiday. But that's a more kind of financial, I think that's something Bitcoin could teach, by the way. It will teach you how to be financially aware, I guess. I don't know if it makes sense. I'm rambling, but I guess that's something I'm always trying to be aware of. Hey, how, when it's convenient for me to sell to pay rent. Do I pay once a year? Do I sell once a month? Does it make sense what I'm saying?
There are 3 really interesting topics in there that you just said, and I just want to make sure we get to all 3 of them without me missing one. The first one that you just mentioned, where I want to get to, and why you should measure your wealth not in euros, not in Bitcoin, but in time. I explain what I mean by that. The second one is, and we talked about it before recording, and I talked with that with Jeff Booth, and he is famous for saying, if Bitcoin fails as a medium of exchange, it will also fail as a store of value. So I want to get to that. And then the last one I want to get to is kind of the money behavior of Bitcoiners and hoarding and dying rich and living poor kind of a thing. But let's start with the first one. You should measure your wealth in time. I love that so much, and I do that every now and then. It's kind of hard to do because you have to kind of calculate what's your life cost, like what do you need as a running cost per month on without luxury payments, plus a little bit of a buffer for, hey, maybe you want to move and you have to buy furniture or like whatever comes up. And what's your net worth? How many Bitcoin do you have? How long with the current value of Bitcoin could you survive without getting any income? And maybe that's controversial in the Bitcoin sphere, but I actually would go ahead and not measure my wealth in Bitcoin. Rather, I would measure it in time. How many months, how many years, how many decades, depending on how wealthy you are, do I have without how long could I lay on the couch and watch Netflix for? Like that's basically the measurement I'm using. Not just suggesting you should do that, but that's the kind of the measurement I would go in.
Yeah, that's such a good point, and I usually think it in a similar way, which is, okay, I have 24 hours on a day. How many of those hours I do stuff I want versus stuff I need to? For example, if you have a job, you go to work. Okay, do you want to go to work? Well, I guess the answer is yes, because you have to have a purpose. But is your work the job you want? That's the $1 million question. And you'd be surprised how many people I've spoken to, and they say, "No, I hate my job." Well, then, okay, then if you are someone who makes $1 million a month, but he hates his or her job and he's trapped, he doesn't even have time to see his kids. Well, that's not financial freedom to me. That's like slavery right there. Because if you stop to go and perform your job, you can't even afford your items, your lifestyle, your home, your cars. So that's a big thing. And like you said, I think if you think in terms of time, which is the most scarce asset we have, I also agree. Well, then how can you design a lifestyle around things that you enjoy doing? And then, shocker, you won't even feel you're working because you are like what we are doing now. I don't feel I'm working because I'm loving talking to you. So I have chosen this morning. I woke up and I said, today I'm going to talk to Robin. So, and people call us lucky. Well, that's one way to define it, yes. But nobody came to your house or my house and said, hey, you guys one day are going to bump into each other. We built something and we gravitate towards each other. There is a definition I love which says luck is truly when preparation meets opportunity, right? If you are prepared, you will meet an opportunity, then you will be called lucky. So I think 100%, like you said, if you plan your life around things you enjoy doing, it's like, what is it I like to do? Okay, I like to talk to people. Perfect. How can I do that? Right? And how can I make money while doing that? Then things are going to start form. And I think one of the common mistakes is people think too much about the how. Just focus on the why. The how is gonna come. If you truly want something, you'll find a way to do it, right? And you don't even know because it's going to be, I call it unconscious competence. So you don't even know you have it, but you have it and you behave as if it happens. So I think it's a fantastic point. And think in terms of how much I can do on a daily basis without depending on my fiat job or whatever it might be. And like you said, it's a good metric, but many people would fail in simply tracking down expenses. You'll be surprised how many people, I know a lot of people with a lot of money, and some of them are terrible in managing. They don't care. And, and some of them have the same problem, but in the opposite spectrum, they are super poor and they don't care because they think, oh, there is nothing I can do. I'm poor anyway, right? And you'll be surprised how much you can do if you want to put your time and energy into it.
It's a really, really, really good point. On that note, how do you define retirement? Would you consider yourself retired?
I guess so. I mean, I guess I'm doing what I love every day. I did try and do nothing on the beach and it was terrible. I mean, it's good for a week, but I think if you don't have any purpose in life, that's a sad life. And it's okay not knowing what you want to do. Like, it's fine. I believe not knowing what to do is a beautiful place to be because you can try everything. Now, the challenge is finding something that is going to make you happy and is going to, depending on the type of person you are. For example, I like make money in business, but not because I like money. Of course, I mean, everyone loves having an income and being successful, but it's the hustle, it's like creating something from nothing, from an idea. It could be a restaurant, could be a podcast, could be anything, you name it. Getting throughout the journey and going through the struggle, that's the best part. Then when you get the medal and you win, well, you want to start something else. I mean, at least that's my profile. So I guess I am. I mean, I live in Dubai. I do what I love. I choose every day to do what I do, which is, I guess, it could be defined as retirement. But I don't think I will ever retire because, I mean, depending on the definition of retirement. But if you ask a bunch of random people on the road, on the street, and say, hey, what does it mean to be retired? Well, it means that you're getting paid by the state to do nothing, right? And that's terrible. I think that's the most depressing thing ever because I don't want to depend on anyone to begin with. I want to be independent. Number two, how sad that could be. Like, I want to have a purpose. I want to have a mission, right? And think about Saylor, for example. He could very much stop doing everything and just sipping cocktail on a yacht, but he doesn't do that either because... and not everyone is like me, by the way. Everyone has his own way, and I respect everything. And I think as long as you're in peace with yourself, there's a lot of people I know, they are retired and they still go to work, right? Because they feel like they want to. So as long as you are in balance with yourself, I guess my definition of retirement would be being financially free or independent and not depending on your boss or the state or a pension or any external sources. Could be a son or a wife or a husband, whatever, and do what you love. So if you can manage to do these things at the age of 50, like I am, well then good. If you manage to do it at 20, great. If you manage to do it at 70, awesome. Everyone has his own path, I guess.
I'm always shocked when you tell me your age. I'm like, he's just 25 years old.
I wish. That would be sweet. I'll take it. I'll love to be 25, even though I'll probably be extremely irresponsible. But hey, I've been there, so it's okay.
I'm like, I want to have your skin in your and your how do you say it? Your oh gosh, how do you say when you just like how you look, your face and your looks with 50 years old, like that's amazing. You really look like young.
Thank you. As the cap who hides a lot of, I started to see a lot of white hair popping in lately. It must be the price of Bitcoin. It stresses me out.
I want to see a picture where you're actually 25. You have to send it to me. I think that would be really fun for me to see the difference, because I've also seen you in real life in Abu Dhabi, and you also look in real life not old. Like you look young there. So sorry for the small detour, but I think you have to share with the audience your youthness secrets.
Dude, I have some photos when I was like 17. You wouldn't believe it's me. Super long hair, like look like a girl. I got guys hitting on me because I look like my mom. Now with the beard, it doesn't happen, thank God. But I've gone through my phase. I was playing guitar into a rock band. So yeah, I'll send you some photos. You won't believe me, but I'll send some for sure.
I only got hit on once by a guy, but he was gay.
Okay, well, it's still a compliment, right?
It's still a compliment. I took it. Like I loved on this day, I was flying so high, because never, like as a guy, I don't know about you, but I never get hit on. Maybe I'm not attractive enough, but this was the one time where I got hit on, and I was like, I'm the king of the world. So unfortunately, I was not gay, but I love the compliment of his.
Yeah. Next time you have a fight with your girlfriend, hopefully never, you can say, hey, careful, because I have options, you know? But yeah, I know what you mean.
I have one other option. I saw him 5 years ago.
You never know.
I wanted to bring a little bit back to work and the personal story. I was last week in Albania to make, I think, the first real holiday I took since I started the podcast. And it was interesting because I really wanted to go back to the hotel room and work. I took my laptop with me, and yes, we were on the beach. We were driving around the different cities, doing sightseeing, going out to really nice restaurants, like all the things. We really lived life there. But I really looked forward to the time where my girlfriend got ready in the hotel room, because it took like way longer than it takes me. And in that time I could work, and it was like, yes, nice. I can get to it. So, I really have that feeling that I really want to work. I'm still in the place where I have to work. I'm not retired. I don't have like 100 Bitcoin laying around, but, I really also want to work. So I don't know if this is already retirement, if you love what you're doing and you can do that every day. But I would define it like that.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, it is super important. I'm telling this to myself, by the way. I'm not telling this to you or to your audience. I'm telling this to me. I think it's super important to have some time for you and your partner. Like my wife, how many times I do it, we go somewhere and I work, right? Or I'm on the plane and I'm editing videos, or I'm sending emails to guests, or whatever. I'm talking to my business partner in Dubai. Like I always do that. And as much as she's an incredible woman, because she deals with me every day, I think we own them to, give them our time and be focused with them. I do struggle a lot. I mean, like you, there is no way, there's no scenario in which I am not doing my thing for more than 20 minutes. It might be a WhatsApp thing or a message on Twitter, whatever it might be. I struggle, which is a good thing, but also is a bad thing. It's a good thing because it means we are enjoying what we are doing, but it's a bad thing, I think, because I think we should maybe balance it a little bit more. And even though I love my life and I'm very happy with where I am with everything around me, there is always room for improvement, right? So specifically when you are on vacation, and I've done it so many times, and my wife sees me packing, oh, you're taking your camera with you, you're taking your laptop with you. And I'm like, yeah, well, you never know. Maybe something's going to come up. And she rolled her eyes saying, oh my God, and I think we do own them to just unplug a little bit. But also, like I said, it's a good sign. It means you are enjoying what you do, right? So as long as we balance it somewhat, I think Kevin O'Leary said it once in a video. He said, plan your week as you wish it is going to be. So, for example, you take a piece of paper and you say, okay, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, all the days of the week, and you go from 8 to 9, I want to do this, 9 to 10, I want to do this, blah, blah, blah. And then Saturday or Sunday, or pick one day at least where you do dedicate yourself to your partner. Not just because of them, but also because of you, because you have to kind of pull the plugs, right? And I know when you work for yourself, it's impossible to plug, to just like disconnect, because there is always a message. And by the way, I work with a lot of people, they're like me and you, so there is no Sunday. I mean, what is Sunday? I don't have any, there's no difference. By the way, fun fact, when I landed in Dubai, Sunday was a working day, right? They had Saturday and Friday off. So the whole thing, ever since I came here, I don't even know what a Sunday is anymore, even though now it's technically Monday to Friday. Still, I'm surrounded by entrepreneurs. So there is no, in my network, I don't have anyone who does 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. So even if I want to, even if I shut down my phone, or if I lose my phone, believe me, they'll find a way to text me through someone, the hotel reception or my wife's phone or whatever. But that's not healthy, right? So we have to try at least to design a life. And I get it. Maybe it's just, maybe a good analogy is when the plane takes off, there's a lot of pressure in the beginning, right? And then poof, when you are in the whatever atmosphere, then you are chilling. I was like, okay, now I can. And I think me and you are in that phase where we're kind of trying, but at some point, I think we'll have to cool the engine and enjoy the ride maybe a little bit more. Or at least that's how I like to tell myself, because I've been in that phase for 50 years. So maybe it's the longest takeoff ever. But I think at some point has to come, right? I don't know.
Let's take a break for a moment and appreciate the beauty that Coin Vigilante has made with the Bitcoin watches. Those watches are the most amazing, the most elegant way of showing that you are a true Bitcoiner. And Coin Vigilante just dropped a completely new and amazing Genesis edition of their watch collections. You have the date of the first ever mined Bitcoin block in there, and of course also the block height and which epoch we are currently in. I love the level of detail they put in this masterpiece. Make sure to check out those amazing Coin Vigilante timepieces down in the descriptions. I love those watches so much. And now if you have Bitcoin, I really do hope that you don't have it on exchange. But if you do have it on exchange, I have two ways for you to deal with that. The first way is you put it on a hardware wallet. That's the entry for you to get into the self-custody game. I recommend BitBox, Bitcoin only edition for that. It's a super simple and secure way. And if you check out the link in the description, you even get 5% off if you use the code Robin. And the second way is the Bitcoin Way. The Bitcoin Way is your all-in partner in terms of how to get the most out of your sovereignty. They will personalize for you a self-custody setup that is perfect for your individual situation. They will show you how you can secure your own devices. Securing your Bitcoin is not enough. You also have to keep all your devices secure. One topic that is overlooked often is the inheritance plan. What happens with your Bitcoin once you are no longer here? Do you have a plan for that in place already? And last but not least, if you're in jurisdictions where you don't feel safe, it's better to get a plan B. For all that, head over to thebitcoinway.com/Robin to get a 30-minute free call. And just a quick side note, I will be for the first time ever speaking at the Bitcoin Prague event in June. It will be absolutely legendary and I'm really looking forward to seeing all of you there. You can get your ticket in the link down in the description of Bitcoin Prague, and very important, use code Robin to get 10% off your ticket. I'm really looking forward seeing you there. My takeoff still takes 24 years till I'm 50. So.
But you never know. You never know.
But there's maybe some small snippet in there, like because I started not taking my phone with me if I want to have time with my girl. And she has her phone. We can call an emergency there. Like it's okay. In a real emergency, I could even log in with my things on her phones and stuff like that. But that never happens. So, and mostly we take one phone just for like maps and paying things because we usually have it on the phone. And it's really freeing if you don't even have your phone with you. You're just like, you have a key, you have a wallet, and like, what else do you need if you want to spend time with someone else? It doesn't even have to be your wife or girlfriend or your partner. It can just all be a friend. Like if you want to really go deep with a friend and you want like, hey, let's spend a weekend and have fun and play games and maybe write a book together, or like whatever you want to do. Leave your phone behind, like lock it away. And the laptop is another level. Like the laptop shouldn't even be at the restaurant. But the phone is also, I think even people that are not crazy about work, I think even they are guilty of taking their phone with them too much and looking at the phone too much. Maybe it's not work. Sometimes maybe it is still work, but maybe it's another friend that is like, oh, like that, you can leave that conversation for when you have time with your phone and be present at that very moment.
That's a super good point. I did made a lot of changes lately in the past maybe 3 or 4 months, and I'm now extremely selective whenever I go out for lunch or I spend time with someone. Shout out to Zubi, by the way. He's probably one of the few, as well as British Huddle. There is a bunch of people that I see in Dubai regularly, and whenever we see each other, the phones stay in the pocket. Otherwise, what's the point? Like if I invite you for lunch and it's me, you, and the phones, it's like why are we doing this, right? And there's a lot of people they forget, and I think it's going to be a problem, especially in this generation who's going to raise kids and they're going to feed their kids iPad and iPhones so they stop crying and they play games. So when they grow up, I mean, my father would slap the life out of me if I would invite a lady for lunch and check my phone all the time. You know, I couldn't even watch TV while dinner was, I mean, this was the 80s, 70s, but it's a different story, right? And I think parents are forgetting, not all of them, some are doing a fantastic job, but the majority of the people I see, just go to any restaurant, look around, you see couples on their phones, right? So that's a super good point. And I think it comes back to the Bitcoiner profile, right? I think whenever someone says to you, I'm a Bitcoiner, it says a lot about your lifestyle. I mean, I think we discussed it last time briefly, besides the fact that I'm vegetarian and I don't believe in Jesus necessarily. Those are the two things that most of the Bitcoiners have, like faith in the religion and like a very meat kind of diet. But besides those two things I don't have, there is a lot of signals, right? They are telling you they are aware, they're telling you that there are many things, I mean, depending on how much they're plugged in. But if you speak to like proper Bitcoiner, not someone who wants to gamble to buy a Lamborghini, I'm not talking to those people. I'm talking to the ones like you and me and your audience, right? People they believe, they study, they're reading, they're listening to the good podcast. I think there is a lot you say when you say I'm a Bitcoiner, right? And then you have someone like me who has a small percentage of my portfolio, and sometimes I gamble, and people call me shitcoiner. Bitcoiner call me so if you are, fun fact, if you are a Bitcoiner, I'm the shitcoiner. If you are a shitcoiner, I'm the maxi. So I'm getting shit from all the sides, right? Whether in fact I'm a Bitcoiner, but just because I go to the casino on the weekend and I gamble with some money that I don't care to lose, that doesn't make me less of a Bitcoiner. But the definition is varies, right? There is Bitcoiners pro ordinals. There is Bitcoiner against ordinals. There is people deciding what to do with their money, I guess, right?
I try to make definitions as simple as possible. So for me, a Bitcoiner is someone who has Bitcoin. Like end of story. You maybe are not aligned with the Bitcoin values, but you're still a Bitcoin if you have Bitcoin. If you are an X user and using the Twitter platform or X platform, it doesn't matter how many followers you have, how much you post on there. You are a user of that platform. And the same with Bitcoin. If you are using the network for transacting, for storing value, of like however you use it, you are a user of Bitcoin. Therefore, you are a Bitcoiner. Then it gets tricky with the definition of a Bitcoin maxi. I just try to have the definition of a Bitcoin maxi, someone who has a vast majority of his wealth in Bitcoin, but it's never connected to what he like. a Bitcoin maxi can be a vegan. Like, that's possible. I've seen them. Like, there are a lot of them actually. A Bitcoin maxi can also be out of shape. Not everyone is working out 7 times a week. A Bitcoin maxi can also not believe in Jesus Christ. They can also not believe in any gods. So just because most of them, or the average Bitcoin maxi, is believing in those things doesn't mean that all of them have to. And what we are, I think, doing is we are projecting our values onto Bitcoin and thinking everyone has to have the same values as we, which is an absurd thing to do. Like, why the heck are we doing that?
Yeah, that's a really good point. But it seems like there are subgroups or subcategories or whatever you want to label them, and it's interesting. And not just in Bitcoin, by the way. It's in anything else, right? So you tend to form groups, and things happens. But it's interesting how the phenomenon has changed, or at least in a few years. I've seen comments on friends of mine. Maybe they bought a nice watch or something. Oh no, if you don't buy a bit whatever, you buy a Casio $10 watch, or you're supposed to have broken socks or broken underwear. I think there is a nice balance in between, and I think your wealth should reflect your lifestyle. Right, going back to what you said earlier, I think if you are someone who's made enough good choices, aka buying Bitcoin maybe a while back, or in 10 years from now buying Bitcoin in 2025, yeah, for sure, and your wealth grows, I think you owe to yourself to have a better lifestyle, right? I'm not saying to go out and splash cash and but do whatever, treat yourself. At the end of the day, there is no harm in making your life more comfortable, in living in a better house. Maybe do, like you said earlier, treat your time as the most scarce asset and question yourself, am I happy? Am I doing with my time what I want to do? I had a beautiful chat with Bob last week, in Brunette, and he said, we had a bunch of different conversations. Exactly. There you go. That sums it, right? But it's the same thing. And sometimes we forget about the basic, right? I mean, it's good to put yourself into a path, give yourself goals, but don't forget to, treat yourself. Otherwise, what's the point in dying with 1,000 Bitcoin if you don't spend any in improving your lives? Also, the people you love, right? Your wife, your husband, your kids, your parents, whatever people your friends, right? So I think it's a good balance there. And it's okay to be obsessed in the beginning, to grab as many as you can, as long as you know you are into a phase, if it makes sense. Just don't let that phase become your life. That's what I would say.
That's a perfect transition in the third. Like we had this 3 topics, and the third one was kind of exactly that: dying rich, living poor. So for the people that might not watch but just listen, there's a guy running behind his Bitcoin. Then he catches some, and then all of a sudden he catches all of them. But his life is also over. So it kind of shows that we are trying to stack and stack and stack as much Bitcoin as we can, but we're forgetting that we actually also have to live our life. This is different maybe for someone like me that is 26 years old now. Maybe now it's a time to stack a lot and work hard and make it good. So there's like some balance to it. If you are 20, it looks different. If you are 80, it looks different to when you're 50. So there's definitely some balance and some variables depending on how old you are. I think the youngest viewers are usually like 15, 14, 16 years old, something like that on YouTube. And the older ones, I think 65 plus, 70, something like that. So there's a wide range of people that are listening now. And if you're 80, you look at it very differently than when you're like just starting out with 18 years old and you just like barely have some Bitcoin. So it's a good point of finding that balance between working hard, stacking hard, but also enjoying life. You don't want to be in a situation where at the end of the life you have a lot of Bitcoin, but you didn't really live a life worth living for yourself, however you want to define that. but you also don't want to be in a situation where you spend all the Bitcoin and then don't have any and have a lot of life left to live, but you don't have any money.
100%. That's why I like to, again, ask questions of why am I stuck in Bitcoin? Like, what is my goal here? Well, me, at least my goal, and people have different goals, it's perfectly fine. Everyone is different. Because I want to free myself to do what I want to do, right? So for me, the definition of being rich is deciding what to do with my time. Like, it goes back to what we said earlier, right? If I had a lot of money, like millions of dollars a month, and I can't do what I want on a daily basis, I'm not free. I'm just as trapped as someone else. The difference is I have more money, but I'm still trapped. So for me, someone rich, he's someone who can do whatever they want with their time. So they wake up whenever they want, they do whatever they want. That's, for me, rich, right? And I think Bitcoin is going to allow you to get there if you wait long enough. Of course, if you're patient, there's going to be a reward at the end of the tunnel. But equally, you cannot be possibly, and again, that's my view, and everyone can disagree. That's fine. We're all different. But stacking is not enough. Like, buying Bitcoin obsessively is not enough. Like, what's the end goal here? Of course, you want to change something for something else. Maybe it's time. Maybe it's a gift you always wanted. Maybe, you know, many times I see people saying, oh, maybe they bought a watch or a car or something. Oh, you stupid. In 3 years, Bitcoin is going to go higher and the car is going to cost you 3 times. Who cares? Like, you have to use money. So those people, instead of buying Bitcoin, it's the same concept, right? Like, let's say I have $1,000 salary a month. I can go out for dinner and buy dinner, which is going to cost me $100. Well, in 10 years, if I would have bought Bitcoin, it's the same thing. Like, you can't possibly have that kind of blinkers on, right? I think it's more flexible. It's like, make sure you are doing it responsibly. Like you said, make sure you track your goals, you track your lifestyle. And if it happens that you want to give you and your wife or husband a good vacation, man, go for it. We only live once. So I think there is a balance there. Difference will be being responsible, but that's never good with anything, not just Bitcoin. Like, if you are irresponsible with anything, if you eat 50 bananas, well, that's not good, even though bananas are nice, but don't eat 50 of them. Just have 1, maybe 2. Same with everything else. Like, yeah, you can spend money, you can give yourself a gift. Actually, it's quite nice to reward yourself every now and then. I think it makes sense. So as long as you have a plan, you are on track. I don't think there's any harm in being nice. And I think Bitcoin is going to empower you to be free, but you have to treat this as a journey as opposed to, oh, I'm buying this thing and tomorrow. This is where the altcoin trap comes in. Oh, I'm going to buy this shit coin and in 6 months it's going to 1,000x, and then what? Well, first of all, it's not going to happen because most likely you're going to lose all the money. It's like the casino, right? I think 98% of the people, they go to the casino, they lose money. You know, I don't know the percentages, but I would guarantee that it's the same with altcoins. Like, the majority of the people, they buy shit coins, they're going to lose money. And then someone is going to make it. And guess what they're going to do? They're going to double you on something else. That's how it works. If you double your money into Dogecoin, you're not going to be responsible with, I mean, maybe someone has done it, but the majority of the people, aka the casino, wins 98% of the time, right? Because whenever you double your money on the roulette, you don't stop playing. You gamble your winnings until you lose. Otherwise, the casino won't exist, right? I think that's the trap of the altcoin. And you'll be surprised, like, how many people still don't. I mean, stacking sats is the easiest thing possible, right? You buy every month and you forget for 2.5 cycles, for 10 years. That's your task. No financial advice. Every week, every month, you buy Satoshis. That's it. You do it for 10 years. It's such a simple instruction, and yet no one is doing it because people want things now. They want to win today, right? Not even tomorrow. There's no tomorrow. I bought the coin now, so am I rich? That's why majority of the people are broke. And fun fact, if we could distribute to the entire population same amount of money in 6 months to a year, only a few would have the majority. Why? Because the majority of the people, they're not responsible with money, because that's not something people teaches us in school. Like, we don't even know what money is until we study the books and we listen to the podcast and we stumble across Bitcoin. It's just a journey, right? So you have to be take charge of your finances. That's step number one. And then, of course, you'll find Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is the answer, at least for me. But before the answer, you have to ask the questions like, how do I retire myself? How do I free time to do what I love? Well, I have to be financially independent. Well, that's one way. There's probably more, but that's probably the biggest one. So then how do I become financially independent? Well, I go through a journey, right? I stumble across a path and I stack as many sats as I can diligently for at least 10 years. I haven't met anyone who is not happy they stack sats for 10 years. It doesn't exist. So far, there is a strong indication that if you stack sats weekly, daily, monthly for 10 years, in 10 years from now, in 2035, I'm pretty sure you'll be happy you've done it.
I love that message. And I think what you just said with we're giving everyone money, we've seen that with the stimulus checks. Most people spend it on dumb stuff. Some people spend it on Bitcoin. And I just posted that meme, I think like a week ago on Twitter, where you see how much money you would have if you put the whole stimulus check just in Bitcoin. It was, what was it, 30,000, 44,000, like a really big amount what the $1,400 came to be. So yeah, and in one point you also mentioned it was so good. The house is always winning, and the same thing is happening with altcoins. I see it all the time. Why are the exchanges that are offering all the crypto shit coins so much bigger than those who only have Bitcoin? Not just because they have more coins, but also those like a Bitcoin only exchange. Most of the customers have a DCA running, maybe buying the dip every now and then, but they buy maybe once a month, maybe twice a month, maybe every week, whatever they are setting for DCA. That's not that much exchange fees that you can make there. But if you have a degent gambler that does it on a daily basis and he always pays 1%, 1.5% as a fee, you make a lot of money as an exchange from that guy. And you actually want to encourage people to keep changing coins and keep trading them. I don't know how it's in Austria or in Dubai or in any other state, but in Austria, America wanted to say, in Austria, the biggest exchange, Bitbanda, actually paid off politicians to change the law. So in Austria, we don't have taxes if you are staying within cryptocurrencies. In order to keep people in the system, and then they can charge the exchange fees. They also did the same thing with the taxes, that you're now having to pay the taxes when you're exiting. So you actually, and there was previously a tax-free advantage in Austria. When you hold Bitcoin longer than a year, or any crypto for that matter, you are having it tax-free. They lobby it for removing that, because they know if they removed, people just trade more, they make more money, they exchange. So the house is always winning, and the people that are losing are those who actually buy shit coins.
Yeah, I mean, even shitcoiner, like the CEO and all the head of the projects, they want your Bitcoin, right? So, and they have Bitcoin, and I think some of them, they made their project to buy Bitcoin. So it's all an exit strategy for everybody. So you have to just realize, okay, where am I on the chain, on the food chain? Am I at the bottom or on the top? And again, you know, like we discussed earlier, like Ethereum was actually really appealing in the beginning. In 2017, when it came out, like I bought some at $2, right? It was a good proposition. And then the whole thing started off, and now kind of became like a crazy space where scams left and right, and it's really tricky. But again, you know, like I said, you have to go through your lessons. It's sadly, some of the people, even some that I speak to, they contact me every now and then, people maybe I haven't seen in 10 years, and they go, oh yeah, I got into XRP. And I'm like, oh, but you can't make them, like, they'll have to go through their own path. They'll have to, and then it's kind of tribalized, right? You have all the XRP guys are hating on the Cardano guys, are hating on the Ethereum guys, and the Bitcoiner are Maxis and are all eating meat into a cave with no chairs. I'm like, guys, Jesus, can you be a little bit more flexible, you know? But I think we are in that tribe phase where There's people, they hate ordinals. People, they love ordinals. There's a lot of discussions on ETFs. Oh, ETFs are going against the ethos of Bitcoin itself, not your keys, not your coins. There's a lot of discussions, even within Bitcoiners, right? And I find them fascinating, because at the end of the day, well, my view is, I don't care. Like, you do whatever you want with your money. You buy Bitcoin, like you said, you're a Bitcoiner. There is some like me, and probably I have the way majority of my portfolio in Bitcoin. It's not even in my hands. So good luck in hitting me with a hammer. I don't even know, right? Because I built a system in which I don't want to put myself in danger. So, and then you have other people, they are really good friends of mine in Dubai. They don't even have Bitcoin. They have ETF. That's it. All in ETF. Who am I to judge? Like, I don't care. I mean, how can I go to someone and say, you should do something else? I mean, why? Can you just do you and let me do me, right? As long as I'm not hurting anybody. Different is when I'm scamming people. Okay, well, that should be illegal. Okay, but that's a different story. If I buy an ETF, how am I scamming you? I'm not scamming you. I'm buying an ETF, which is a product in the market. But there is a lot of solid position and tribalism, and I think it's because it's a new market and it's going to be like this forever. I mean, after all, people fight over a football match, man. So, not surprised they are fighting about who's more maxi or whatever. It's such an interesting topic, and then you have old people, especially in Dubai. There is a lot of crypto people, and Token 2049 just finished. I didn't go, but I've been to some side events. And you can hear the discussions, right? Oh, I've started my own coin. I'm doing this thing, and I'm all in Pepe or whatever. Okay, well, as long as you do you and you don't convince anyone else to buy. Of course, if I do a video and I say, "Guy, let's buy my coin. Mr. M coin is going to the moon," and I scam everyone, well, then yeah, I deserve to go to jail, 100%. But if I proactively go and buy a token I believe into, which could be whatever, you name it, Chainlink or Cardano, why do I have to get shit from the people? I mean, it's my money, my choice, right? And of course, I have my own ideas and my own actions, but I like to respect other people. Like I said, as long as we are not doing anything illegal. And having said that, I do believe 100%, and I'm ready to say it and prove it, that whoever comes into the crypto machine and they stick around, they'll be maxis in a couple of cycles. Inevitable, because you will learn your lessons. You might reduce your position. Like in the beginning, my position in altcoin was way bigger. And then in 12 years, it basically shrunk to a point that probably this is going to be my last cycle in altcoins. I don't know. But the percentages in my portfolio diminish it, right? Because you understand your lessons. And maybe you have someone who comes in now in 2025, it's much easier to be a maxi. Like I said, you have a different access to information. It's a different story. You'll also learn your lessons with exchanges. I mean, I don't think it's going to be as bad as it was back in the days with MTGOX and all the other stuff, but you will have plays like there is MSTY, for example, now, which is their MSTR. There is a lot of different plays, like you said in the beginning, to go back to your topics. It's a different play. I know a lot of friends, they are holding MSTR. They don't even have Bitcoin, which, if you think about it, that's so far away from Bitcoin. Like, you are trusting a corporation to buy Bitcoin on your behalf. Okay, we can talk about it, but that's like an ETF, right? It's like I don't know which one is worse, to be honest. Leaving money on exchange, buy MicroStrategy, or buy an ETF. I don't know. I guess it depends. It's up to you. Also, self-custody is stressful. It's not for everybody. That's why banks have been invented. When people are commenting, oh, it's only 12 words. Well, first of all, 18 or whatever, depending on. It's not just the words. It's everything else. It's everything else. How do you store them? How do you secure them? What happens if you get hit by a bus, right? So there's so many variables. It's not just 20 words or 18 words. It's just way more complicated. Self-custody, it's like it's a path. And you can't expect that someone who has never heard of Bitcoin before goes full plate metal, treasure gardening. Guys, man, it's a journey. Like, of course, if you've done a bunch of cycles, you might be more familiar with terms and seed phrase. And if you're a newbie who's never seen Bitcoin before, you know how complicated everything is? I mean, stablecoin, there is like 12 different stablecoins alone. On Tether, there is Solana, there is Ethereum. any chain has stable coins on it. AVAX, it's so complicated. Like, it's an interesting topic, but I would say go easy with people, because everyone has their own journey, right? And whatever you experience for the past few cycle, well, that helped you to get where you are. But don't be judgmental for, you will see some cats now in the background, for someone who has a different story, because we all go through different paths, right? So just that's why we say stay humble, right? And stack sats, because humble also mean don't judge people, right? If anything, help them. Instead of commenting, sometimes I'm getting some really heavy comments, not even on me or on the channel, but maybe of something that someone said in the comments, and they reply to that comment with a mean reply. I'm like, guys, we're supposed to be helping each other, right? Just because someone has bought an ETF doesn't make that person an idiot, right? At least that's how I see it.
It's very true, that the human thing, and it's also like online so much easier because you are hidden behind an online figure, and there's no chance you're going to hit him in the face. In real life, people are nicer to each other because it's a real possibility that someone actually hits you in the face if you say something stupid to them.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I think actually if you bring someone that fights online in real life, they might actually like each other. They might actually enjoy a conversation to each other because they actually learn something from each other. But yeah, I have one more thing that actually I wanted to start with that topic, but we will end with that topic now. Jeff Booth said it in my podcast, and ever since it's kind of making circles in my brain, and I really don't know where 100% I'm standing on that. He said, if Bitcoin fails as a medium of exchange, it will also fail as a store of value. Where do you stand on that, if you agree, and why?
100%. I mean, if you think about, that's my opinion. If you think about why we think something is valuable, right? It's because it's a bunch of different reasons. But if everyone would never sell their Bitcoins and just hang to them for their life, well, there's no value in that, right? Because why something is valuable in the first place? Well, it's probably a list of things. It's scarce, blah, blah, whatever. Scarcity doesn't make, it can be the only thing. Just because it's scarce doesn't mean it's valuable, because I can find a couple of things that are scarce that nobody wants. So it has to be a basket of things. And I think one of the beautiful things about Bitcoin is, like, I can carry it with me, I can take it with me, I can divide it into things, and I can use it, right? And sometimes using it means not spending it. Like, if I take some Bitcoin and I store it and I'm not using it, I'm actually using it, right? So it's a bit of a mind trick, but it makes sense. So different people have different ideas of value, right? But to me, in that basket means I want to send you some of that thing, and it's part of the value, the proposition value. For example, there's a friend of mine, Lena. She does, the Michael Saylor t-shirts with a B. She's here in Dubai. She's a good friend of mine, and I ordered a bunch of t-shirts. I want to pay her in Bitcoin. Like, that's the point. The point has to circulate. Like, I have to be able to. That's my opinion, and I don't care if in 6 months I would have paid those t-shirts 3 times the amount, because that's, again, you're thinking in fiat, right? So you have to make a distinction in between. That's my opinion. Being plugged into the Bitcoin standard, and like Jeff put, he, like me, lives into it. I have no fiat under my name, next to nothing. So I don't even think about fiat. Oh, but this Bitcoin would have cost me 50,000. Well, if I have to do a big movement, maybe, like I said earlier, I can be strategic and say, well, maybe instead of selling a big chunk to pay my rent, I can pay rent once a year. I can negotiate a better deal because I'm paying up front, and then I can follow the Bitcoin cycles. Okay, maybe that's something I can do. But I want to be able to spend it on a daily basis. I want to be able to use it. Otherwise, if I can't use it, how can be it a valuable thing, right? And again, definition of use could be different for different people. Some people, they want to store it, and by storing it, there's a use. Now, in gold, you can do watches, you can do diamond, you can do jewelries. So that's the use case of gold, even though it's a small percentage compared to the whole amount of gold. And in Bitcoin, I think has to be circulation, right? I want to send you some, whenever we go out and we split the bills or whatever, I send my friends sats, right? And I think that's a valuable thing. And if we don't use it in that sense, I don't think it will be as valuable as it is now. So I think the do not spend your Bitcoin is fundamentally broken. I think you have to spend your Bitcoin. Again, it's circumstantial, right? Like if you have fiat and you want to spend fiat, okay, but then defeats the purpose of Bitcoin because we want to plug in a different network, right? So it's so circumstantial. And again, I can't go to someone who has never used a Bitcoin wallet and say, you have to spend your Bitcoin. They're going to go, whoa, dude, I have my Visa for that, my MasterCard. What do you mean? I use Bitcoin to save, right? It's my saving vehicle. Well, that's true, but it depends on how much you're plugged in. If you are like Jeff Bezos and myself, and probably you, we are plugged into Bitcoin. I mean, the business I have makes Bitcoin. My lifestyle uses Bitcoin. So then I want to be able to spend it. And I won't feel bad in buying. Like I can give you an example. When Bitcoin reached, I think it was 102, I bought a motorcycle. It was my dream bike. I don't feel bad about it. Like, of course I don't have 29 motorcycles. I have one, right? And I'm not going to think, in 10 years it would have cost me $1 million. I don't think in terms of money in that way. Money, Bitcoin, in terms of fiat, right? I think in terms of Bitcoin. So the mission stays the same. Stack as much Bitcoin as I can, but I have to live in between now and that day. And I think your lifestyle should be a reflection of your wealth. So I agree with Jeff Wood. I think if you can't make that thing circulate in between the network, then who wants it? Like, would you want something you can't send, you can't receive, you can't use? I wouldn't, to be honest. So, and it always, typically, that's how it begins, right? You find something valuable, you go, oh, I found something very valuable, but then you want to exchange it with something else. Hey, can you give me some of those if I give you a little bit of this? Because this is very valuable. So then it becomes a currency, right? But it starts as a valuable thing that we all agreed collectively that has value. But then you want to make it circulate. If everyone, imagine if from today specifically, nobody would have ever moved any Bitcoin. Well, then it would go to zero, because who wants to buy it? I mean, they couldn't even buy it, by the way, because if we don't send it or sell it. So I think it's a balance in between. And there might be a phase in which it becomes more, I don't want to sell it now because it's going up, maybe. And there's be a phase in which maybe you are forced to, like when I have to pay rent, I'm like, I have to sell some Bitcoin because I need to pay rent. So it might be a swing in between the two, but I don't think it can be one. Like, it has to be something you need to be able to exchange, right? Otherwise, I don't know, there's no point, at least in my brain.
There's a couple of really good points in there. I think people will sell it anyways. If you are 100% in Bitcoin and you are longer than 10 years in there and you have that great life, you want to use that life energy. You will not. We're coming back to the original point of like dying rich, living poor. Like, why are you stacking if you never use it? So I think there will always be sellers in the market to compensate for the buyers. I disagree with one small thing. You said if no one sells it, it will go to zero. Wouldn't it go to infinity if no one sells it and there are only buyers? Isn't that the supply shock moment?
Well, but where are they buying it from if nobody sells it? So if it doesn't circulate, so let's say from tomorrow, that's what I meant. From tomorrow or from today, we, miner included, we don't sell anything. So how can they buy it? Like they can't. It will probably stay frozen at whatever 90 something, but it will be a zero because there's no value in something you can't buy or you can sell. So there has to be. And by the way, when the price goes up or goes down, because people are buying and or selling. It's not like it's people. So we make the movement. So if we decided not to sell anything anymore, well, then how can it go up? Actually, it would stay what it is, pegged to the dollar. It would probably go flat, but it won't be something attractive because you can't sell it, right? So it's locked. So there has to be a healthy amount of people, they want it, and people, they want to sell it. And like you said, super well said, by the way, imagine you invested in Bitcoin when it was $1 or 50 cents or even $1,000 for it matters. And now it's like 100,000. And you're thinking, okay, so I've made my return, at least I'm taking my prospect. Let's say you invested $10,000, you want to take that $10,000 back, right? In some sort of maybe another asset, ideally another asset, not a liability, another asset, ideally. Then that's how you become rich. You become rich when you have a lot of assets around you. And this thing that Michael Saylor keep propagating, like there's no second best, which I completely disagree with him. There is second, third, fourth, fifth. There is many other bests. Of course there are. But then you have to be obsessed. Like in order to make it, and by make it, I mean free yourself. So free you to do whatever you want to do. Like get to the point where that's what rich to me means. Means I wake up when I want to do what I want to do. That's, for me, that's a rich person. And if you can get there by selling some Bitcoin, please do that. Like, please sell some Bitcoin to free yourself from the matrix. Yes, I think you should do that because it's going to allow you to become free, right? From your job you hate, from the life you're trapped into it. So I think you should sell your Bitcoin. And I think there is second and third best. And I think diversification is not a bad idea if you reach a certain amount of financial freedom. Like, I don't know anyone who has a lot of money and they have one thing. That's it. That doesn't exist. Like, Saylor has probably properties, yachts, cars. Like, come on, man. Like, of course, when you get to a certain degree of wealth, you want to focus on things more. Yeah, I get it. I get it. I am all in Bitcoin, but I have a motorcycle. I have a computer. I have things. So I think the message that he's saying is directed to certain people. They are trapped into a fiat life and the message works really well for them, right? Like if you have a company with a lot of money like Apple or Microsoft, please follow what Saylor is saying, right? Focus on one asset, or if you are someone who wants to become financially independent. But if you are someone who is already there, well, the message is different. That's my opinion, at least. Because if you are never selling your Bitcoin and only having one asset, and you are a billionaire, I think you could do better, right? That's my opinion. So again, I think Bitcoin is helpful to get you to a point where you free yourself. Then when you're free, which, by the way, not just Bitcoin, there's many other assets that can take you to freedom. Like there's a lot of people in Dubai, they've done real estate, for example, or whatever it is that they can do. Of course, if you look into Bitcoin and the returns, and this is why Saylor is referring to, I think, the returns in terms of capital, right? Yes, there's no second best in that sense. But I don't think diversification is on itself a bad thing. I had a good chat with British Huddle about MSTY, MSTR, and Bitcoin. And I think one of the problems that Bitcoiners have, like hardcore Bitcoiner, Seyfadina Moose, by the way, amazing guy. We had dinner together, and many others, like proper old school Bitcoiner. They were saying, well, I don't have an income because Bitcoin doesn't give you an income. Bitcoin, you have to sell it, right? So it doesn't have any passive income yet. I mean, you might be able to borrow against your Bitcoin, but again, shenanigans, right? You lose custody and all that kind of stuff. So as we speak today, as far as I know, there is no way for you to have passive income with Bitcoin. You have to sell some of it. So now there are some stuff you can do. A good example, a British Huddle was saying is there is this guy who had $4 million in Bitcoin, right? A developer in Dubai. And he was struggling because he had to go to work and like 9 to 5, have a job, but he has $4 million in Bitcoin, right? So, and you think, well, I am pretty sure if you manage your portfolio a little bit smarter, you can maybe quit your job, right? So then how do you create a passive income? Well, there is probably a bunch of different ways, but you can't do that with Bitcoin yet. So you have to think about outside of the cage and say, okay, I have $4 million in Bitcoin. Great, amazing, well done. So how can I make myself free? How can I free myself from the rat race? Well, I have to take some of that Bitcoin and sell it. And eventually you have to do it either way, because think about someone like me. I have to sell. Like there is nothing I can do. Like even if I don't want to go to, let's say I'm into the one channel, like Bitcoin only, well, guess what? I have to sell Bitcoin. Otherwise, how am I paying rent? So I think the message there is, I think you can challenge that at some point, because like you said earlier, at some point, that bag of Bitcoin you have is going to be, quote, big enough for your lifestyle. It's going to allow you to do something, right? now I can do whatever. I can buy a house in the mountain. I can buy a better car. I can retire my entire bloodline, whatever it might be. And that number is different from someone who lives in Dubai, in Austria, in Australia, in Africa. The number is always different depending on your lifestyle, your preferences. So you can't say, 10 Bitcoin is going to retire you. That doesn't make sense because it depends on your lifestyle, right? There's people I know, they spend 10 Bitcoins a month in Dubai. So it depends about your lifestyle, right? So what is it you want? What does retirement mean? What type of car do you want to drive? How many cars you want to have? Do you want to fly private? Do you want 10 Rolex to change every day? So that's where do you live? How much is going to cost you to go out for dinner? Where do you want to go for dinner? If you go to Burj Khalifa as opposed to into a street food in Thailand, it's a very different concept of retirement. So at some point you will be hit by that number. Then it's up to you to decide how you want to diversificate into fiat as opposed to other assets. And I think Seyr, I please him for the message, but like I said, it's not for everybody, right? So at some point, you'll have to probably plan your life, I think, and say, okay, now that I've reached my financial freedom, how do I want to live? What do I want from life? Do I want to work? I don't want to work. Like you and me, we can probably work 24/7. There's many people I know that would love to do nothing all day. And hey, I don't judge. It's just not me. But there is many people that would kill to just go on the beach every day and just read books or, tan on the sun or swim. So again, it's very personal. That's why I see Bitcoin as a channel to empower you to become who you want to be. But at the end of the day, we all want different things, right?
It's very true. I like that message a lot. Unfortunately, we're already at the kind of the end of the podcast. I have a new end routine for people that have been on again, like yourself. What have you learned since the last podcast outside of Bitcoin?
Beautiful question. I've learned that you have to take care of your body. So I've started this thing. There is a Bitcoiner that lives near me. We have started this. It's like CrossFit. It's called F45. It's like a high interval frequency training, which I think is super important. I'm stating the obvious here, but you have to take care of yourself because what's the point in becoming so rich? If you invest now in Bitcoin, in 10 years, you'll be so rich, right? You want to live longer to enjoy the wealth. So I've learned you have to be aware of your body, and I've never done it. I've been always lazy with my body per se. I've been doing a lot of stuff that requires my brain more than my body. So probably the main thing is discipline towards your body. That's 100% important because we only have one as far as I know. And it's not getting any easier when you're getting older. You will feel it in your back, your muscles. So yeah, take care of the body because I think we've gone through a place where we kind of accepted everything, body diversity, whatever you want to label it. I don't think it's cool. I think it's actually bad. I think it's unhealthy. And I think we should take care of our body. And I mean, I'm not saying we should go and publicly shame people, but we should encourage people to stay active because there is a lot of cell phone activities, like we said earlier. Sometimes just toss the phone in a corner and go for a run or find a buddy that has, for example, tomorrow I don't want to go, but I know that if I'm not going, my friend is going to say, hey, dude, I'm here. What's wrong with you? You said you would have come. So that helps, right? So create an environment in which is going to drive you to make some changes. So maybe find a friend who's very healthy and very fit and ask them, say, hey, I can give you some knowledge on finance about Bitcoin. You can come on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. You can drag me to the gym. So that's probably something. Learn how to exchange valuable in your community to, maybe you are someone who's super fit, but doesn't know anything about finance, right? Or maybe you are someone like me who's done a lot of finance, but skinny. So you can exchange value. So that will be something, since we did the podcast together, I've learned.
So you also look like 25 when you're 75 years old.
Well, that's the plan. I'll let you know. I mean, tomorrow I have to go again and I feel so sore. So I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'll be there, I promise.
Really, really cool. Now we have it on video.
Exactly.
We have an entertain in the podcast where the previous guest is asking a question for the next guest without knowing who the next guest actually is. And the previous guest asked you the question, what is the most dangerous attack vector to Bitcoin?
Oof, that's a good one. I mean, I would say the 51%, that will be the tricky one on a mathematical scale, which is also impossible. I'm not worried about quantum computers at all, because I don't think that's a problem. Because think about everything else, man. I mean, if they can manage to crack the network, the most safe network on the planet, think about anything else, your social media, your bank account. I think on a mathematical level, I would say 51. So if someone can control double spending, there will be a big problem, but I think it's never going to happen anyway. So probably the second would be, I know it's kind of controversial, but the amount of coin owned by ETFs and or corporations. And I put in the group also strategy, right? Because like I said, I love Michael Saylor, but he's not going to be around forever. And he has a company which is traded publicly, which means someone can take over and sell everything, which technically they shouldn't, because there's going to be so big and so powerful that it's because of the choices they made, which will be not really interesting. But I would say the second larger will be who's accumulating the most of the Bitcoin as we speak. I don't know if you're following, but there's been, I think it was 2 weeks ago, we had 2 days, $1 billion each day into ETFs. So am I worried? No, but it's growing fast. So some people are referring to paper Bitcoin, right? So I don't know what's going to happen. I'm keen to find out, because the price is going to be much higher, right? If demand continue to soar like this, but it could be a very different scenario in a few years from now. So, and BlackRock is not Angel, by the way. I mean, if you think BlackRock is a nice company, do some research. They've done some terrible things. So yeah, keep your Bitcoin in self-custody, because I think they will find ways. And by the way, I'm predicting there's going to be a ton of companies popping up like mushrooms saying, we're going to allow you to borrow against your Bitcoin, deposit your Bitcoin over there, because everyone wants your Bitcoin. That's the layer where we are now. Everyone wants them, so you'll have to be super trained to protect your Bitcoins and learn how to self-custody them, because that's, I think it's coming. It's going to come. So I would say second largest, discounting the 51% of double spending, will be ETFs accumulating a lot of Bitcoins. Yeah. Could be scary.
Interesting. And ETFs, I get why people buy them, but it's like most people would be better off with self-custody or with. It's a difficult topic. I think like self-custody will evolve a lot. I think we will have such an easy way of self-custody with, I told it a lot on the podcast. What if Apple encounters self-custody in Bitcoin? What if they make a self-custody wallet on your phone that unlocks if you bring your iPad and your Apple Watch close by, and then all of a sudden you can make transaction. Then all of a sudden you have a pretty nice, easy self-custody setup. It's not perfect. There are attack vectors for that self-custody setup, but it's a lot better than an ETF. But yeah, it's just self-custody is an interesting topic, how it will evolve over time and how it will grow.
Yeah, that's a good point. And by the way, I'm not against ETFs, by the way. I think the network should go where he's going to go, right? I don't think we should control the direction of the network. I think we should just let people use it. So I don't think we should say, no, BlackRock should not be allowed. No, it's an open and free decentralized network. Anyone should be able to do whatever they want. That's otherwise we will go against the ethos of Bitcoin. But at the same time, we should, be mindful and at least recognize who's playing the game now, because it's changed. And when it comes to Apple, it's a good point, and Google and all that kind of stuff. My 2 Satoshis will be the number of steps in between you and your Bitcoin are going to determine the amount of safety. It's like when you eat fruit, right? So if you eat a fruit from a tree, it's like you and the fruit. If you put something in between, sugar, processed, blah, 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 is going to become less healthy than before. So the less amount of steps you have between you and self-custody, the healthier will be your self-custody. So
I love that.
Just be mindful how many steps there are in between. That's it.
Absolutely. And in terms of BlackRock, I love the saying, the worst thing about Bitcoin is that it's open and permissionless, so your enemies can also buy it. It's like, even if you disagree with someone, even if you really dislike what they're doing, they can still get some Bitcoin. Thank you so much, Maurizio, for being on Mr. M podcast. Really, really cool. Before I let you go, where can people find you and ask you questions and reach out to you?
First of all, thank you for having me. Always a pleasure. I love being in your podcast, and talking to you is always a great thing. I have also a YouTube channel, Mr. M Podcast. It's the same handle everywhere. So I also started recently in Rumble because I think it's a good alternative to YouTube. No hate, but the more we can propagate the message, the better. There is also the show goes on everywhere, so iTunes and everywhere. It's just at Mr. M Podcast all over the place.
Really cool. Thank you so much for taking the time, Maurizio. And also thank you so much for everyone that is watching and listening for joining us today. As always, I'll be back tomorrow with another episode. Bye-bye.